Hello everyone and welcome to another Space Saturday. So we're going to do something pretty simple here. We're just going to orbit, okay? I'm going to show you guys how I do a nice, low, easy orbit. Key things, I know I'm playing in sandbox mode and you guys are playing in whatever mode you guys are playing in. But I'm going to just basically grab the essential parts that I need. And as long as you can match or mimic similar traits that I'm doing with my rocket, you should be fine. So first things first, I want to have a nice solid lander. I want a lander pod right here. Okay, you're gonna grab a heat shield just to protect it. Yep. You're going to grab a decoupler to detach it so that there's not too much weight on re-entry. Nope, too big. Nope, too big. Just right. Alright, so attach your little pod here. Now you want to make sure that your rocket is as aerodynamic as possible. That means that you want it as streamlined as possible. That way there's no issues with it going through the atmosphere. Because if there's issues going through the atmosphere, there's going to be issues with getting it back. I'm going to use the biggest parachute I have just for the craft itself. I'm going to drop a engine that's decent on it. I'm probably going to use, honestly, so something a little crazy that I figured out a little while back is there is a little engine, the little engine that could. There's a tiny engine. There it is. This thing pushes 40 kilonewtons of pressure with 1 to 2 fuel per second. So it's very fuel efficient to use this, and on top of that it's very easy to use it. Look at how fuel efficient that is. Once you get outside of the atmosphere, these numbers boost up a little bit. The more fuel efficient your top stage is, the further you can go to places. Now, there's a key thing about Kerbin that you need to understand right here, okay? This thrust to weight ratio for you to get anywhere needs to be 1.1. But because this is a top stage and it's going to be outside of orbit or outside of the atmosphere, that's not going to affect it much, okay? So the next stage that I want to put in is I want to grab another decoupler. I'm going to drop it on here. I'm going to grab this, pop it on there. It's a nice big meaty tank. And then we're just going to grab a probably just going to use a mainsail for right now. That way you guys can kind of get the idea. So with this mainsail I have 1880 meters a second. Okay, it's not a whole lot, to be honest with you. Honestly, let's see if I can get something better from, let's say, the Wolfhound. No, not very good. Okay, let's see. What about the Skipper? Skipper's an early on stage. That's actually more fuel efficient and gets you more meters a second. Now, the higher in the atmosphere you get, the more meters a second you have. It actually adds, the less aero resistance you have, the more meters a second you'll gain. Now right here's the thing that I was talking about. You have to have a 1.1 minimum to go anywhere. So this is not a powerful enough engine. This one, however, is. See? You can turn that down to 1.1 as you're flying through the atmosphere. It will save you some delta V. And then on top of that, honestly, that should be enough to get me to orbit between this and this. I don't know if I'll have enough thrust to weight ratio to actually fully make it to orbit with that. So I'm actually going to switch that out these out for something more powerful, because I'm going to use that as my second stage. The more powerful the engine is, the better you are off going into space. This is these thuds are actually really nice as well. I really do like the thuds as well. They are a decent amount of fuel ratio. They have a good amount of hold on, I got this backwards somehow. There we go. Alright, so now I don't have to worry about whether I'm in atmosphere or not, because I'm above 1.1 thrust to fuel ratio. This rocket by itself, the way that it's built, will make it to orbit very easily. Now, if you're not very good at building rockets, these control surfaces, the wing control surfaces, are great to add. Okay, and the reason being is because it allows you to control the rocket better when the aero forces are the most on the craft. Once you get outside of the aero forces, it's super easy to fix the rocket itself. So that's it for this part of the video. 6 minutes. I've already got a video, or I've already got a rocket that'll go out to space. I'm gonna grab some Voltic panels, drop them on here. I'm gonna drop a battery on here. There we go. And then I'm gonna go into my action group. I'm gonna set custom 1 as toggling the solar panels. Boom. All right. Rename craft for orbit tutorial. To get a orbit of Kerbin, you need to have at least 3,500 delta V, which is this, 3,500 meters a second, with thrust to weight ratio over 1.1 on all engines. So this portion has to have 1.1, this portion has to have 1.1 in order for this to work. So there we go. Always check your staging. And then let's go ahead and launch the craft. Now here comes the fun part. Actually showing you the orbital trajectory and how I set it up. So right off the bat, there's a couple of tools that I set up immediately upon getting onto the launch pad. There's a few things that I do, and I'll walk you through it here in a second once it loads up. Should be loading up any time now. And there it is. Alright, so the first thing that I check, or the first thing that I do, is open this. That way I can see my thrust to weight ratio and adjust my fuel accordingly. Second thing I do is go down here to this little purple box, the maneuver node. What that does is that allows you to see your apoapsis and your periapsis. So right now I'm 81 meters above the ground, and then the periapsis goes all the way to the center of Kerbin. The last thing I do, or two things that I do, is first I check my staging and make sure everything's good. And then second, I toggle my SAS to make sure it's on, because SAS makes everything easier. Now I'm ready to launch. Throw a quick save in there, and we are off. So now, normally what I do is I wait till I get about 2,000 meters off the ground at 60 meters a second minimum, and then I will start to bank to 90 on my nav ball, or to the right over the ocean, depending on how your nav ball is oriented. So once I get up there, notice that it says 1.2 on the thrust to weight ratio. I'm going to adjust that down, and over time I'm just going to keep adjusting it down. So what that does is it saves you delta V, because the aero forces that are acting on you slowly go away over time, which allows you to gain delta V. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start pitching over toward the ocean, like I said. And now that I'm up to 70 meters a second, I'm going to just keep bumping this fuel down. That way it just keeps going. I want to make sure that I'm not banking too fast. I normally want to be at 20,000 meters before I hit 45 degrees on the nav ball, which is where that marker is, 90. That first 90 marker is on the just below the prograde marker, which is that yellow circle. So I'm just going to keep fighting it because I don't want my rocket to lay over. And adjust my fuel because I'm starting to get up there in fuel to weight ratio. There we go. I'm just going to keep fighting it because I don't want it to go to 45 degrees yet. Just going to keep fighting it. And slowly getting up there. I started banking too early, and that's what's causing my issues right now. Now that I'm at 10,000, this isn't exactly ideal for me. This isn't exactly where I want to be. However, it's where it's going to put me, so I'm just going to have to deal with it accordingly. Normally, like I said, I want to be at 45 at 20, but it's not letting me fix myself. I'm far beyond the aero forces at this point for the wings. The wings aren't going to contribute in any way, shape, or form. So I'm kind of at the mercy of the rocket for right now until it runs out of fuel and I get those other rockets with more gimbal. There we go. These have a lot more gimbal to them. And I can slowly adjust this down. There we go. Yeah, I accidentally started laying over way too early. But as you can see, I've recovered it now, and I'm just going to keep pushing up through the atmosphere. I'm already moving at 600 meters a second, which means that I've only got like 1,800 meters a second of delta V required for me to actually get to orbit, because it's 2,300, give or take a few meters a second is what it takes to achieve an orbit at 7070. I can keep turning down this a little bit because I am moving extremely fast. I like to keep my thrust to weight ratio between 1.1 and 1.2. That's the most fuel efficient way that you can do it. Alright. Now that I'm at 25, I'm going to go ahead and slowly lay over. I'm going to start moving toward 40 and just letting it coast on out. Keep turning down the fuel ratio. That way the thrust to weight ratio is lower than 1.2. And you just got to stay on top of that as much as possible. That'll get you the most fuel efficient burn. Excuse me. And the best turn, gravity turn, possible. Now that I'm at 35,000 kilometers, I'm going to start panning over to about 30 degrees. I'm also going to turn down my thrust to weight ratio because it's starting to creep up to 120 again. And I'm just going to sit here for a little bit. And then it's just going to slowly keep on creeping over. I'm almost out of the atmosphere now, so we're doing pretty good as far as fuel goes. Here we go. Now that we're at 45, or almost 45, I'm going to start panning over to 25 degrees. and just keep up the slow movement toward 0. As you notice, my periapsis is starting to come up as well, which is good. That's what I want it to do. Now that I'm at 50, I move to 20 degrees. And it's just going to slowly keep on moving over. 55, I'm at 15 degrees. Bring down my thrust to weight ratio a little bit. Uh, 60 meters a second, I'm going to bring it over to 10 degrees. Once I hit 65, I'm going to bring it to 5 degrees. Just like that. Then once I hit 70, I'm going to bring it to 0, or just below 0. Right. And what that's going to do is that's going to, if you keep bringing it down, it's actually going to, you're going to notice that the 70s number, the apoapsis, starts to go down the more you go over to the orbital trajectory side of it. So you notice it's going up and down as I move over and left and right. So that's how I keep it at 70 to 75 without burning that much fuel. So like right now you can see that I am right around 73 and declining. As I move over, it starts going to 73 and up, and then 74, and then I go over this way a little bit more and it starts declining. And you just want to keep doing that back and forth and just keep it around 73 to 74, maybe 75, or whatever you want your apoapsis or periapsis to be at. Alright, so now that my periapsis is the same as where my orbiter is, I need to just face prograde, ride it out to the 70 meter mark, or 70, yeah, to the 70,000 mark. I'm just going to fast forward so that way we get there a little faster. Should start slowing down on the apoapsis here shortly. If not, then you'll just have to burn a little bit just to get it right. Nope. So I have to burn 45 just to fix it. There we go. And keep going. As you get higher, it's going to slowly stop decreasing. There we go. Boom. Keep going. Now, if you notice, the 70s, or the apoapsis, is starting to decline at a slower rate, which is good. That means I'm getting closer to hitting my my apoapsis. And normally I let my apoapsis hit 70 before I start to adjust my periapsis. I made that mistake this time around. It's been a minute since I've went into orbit. I've been playing a bunch of different games today, so we're just slowly coasting up. We're almost there now. And now that we're almost there, I can slow it down. I'm going to keep it sped up, actually. I want to be at 70. There we go. Now, if I flip this all the way over, what'll end up happening now is as I burn this direction, which is not going to use a lot of fuel, but it is going to bring me up to a 70 by 70. There it is. Almost. Let me fast forward a little bit. That way I'm at like 72 before I start burning. Because your periapsis, when you burn orbital, you can't get any higher than your or where you're at right now as far as your periapsis goes. Your periapsis can never go higher than this number right here. So you have to make sure that you get this number up before you start burning for periapsis to come up. And there you go, I'm in orbit. So now all I'm going to do, I'm going to re-enter, and I'll show you how to do re-entry. And what you do is you bring it prograde on the orbit. I'm going to bring myself around to the sunny side so that way you can see exactly what I'm doing. Alright. So you bring yourself to prograde. Just like that. You toggle that until your periapsis drops below 70. You have a heat shield, so you don't really have to worry about re-entry. There we go. I'm re-entering. I like to set my Kerbal to retrograde if I have it unlocked. If not, then I just make sure that my craft stays in retrograde as I'm deorbiting. And I just fast forward. Actually gonna boom. There. Expend all of my fuel. That way I'm just falling a lot faster. Another thing I can do, which I'm not sure how much battery power I have. Got plenty. As I'm falling, you notice the closer I get to 50, the more red that my craft is going to turn. There it is. That's whenever you start hitting the atmosphere. Let me go ahead and just break myself off now. That way I can just let it coast in. Please don't hit me, please don't hit me, please don't hit me. Woo, that was close. So I'm coming in really hot. As long as I don't have the AB, I'm good. Coming in really close now. Now I'm falling at a decent speed. Deploy my parachute because it allows me. Grab this, jettison the heat shield because I don't need it anymore. And then just fast forward until I land. Whee! That's it. Now all it's going to do is I'm going to land and then I'm good to go. Whee! All the way down. Boop. That's it. I am here. Okay, so that's how you go to orbit and return from orbit. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want to see more of my content, or if you want to, if you want to see more of my content, subscribe. And if you want to know when it comes out, make sure you hit the bell. Thank you guys for watching.